Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding Mishnah Berurah Chel Gimel on Mirz Hashem. Today we will be learning Daf Nun Beis Amid Aleph. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos. We pick up today on Nun Aleph Amid Beis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 lines up from the bottom in the Shulchan Aruch. Last word on the line, the word V'yesh. Our learning should be a schos for Achenu Kabeis Yisrael, Hanesunim Batzara Bashivya, Ha'imdim Ben Bayamu Ben Bayabasha, Hamakay Birachem Alehem V'yitzim Yitzar L'Rvacha Me'afelu L'Oira, Umishibad L'Geula Hashta Bagolo V'zman Kariv and Emar Armein. Our learning should also be a schos for Yisrael Ben Rachel, Yonasan Ben Michal, and Yoel Ben Michal. It should also be a schos for Shalema, for Tzvi ben Leah Miriam. Okay, so we have a lot to do today. Let's jump right on it. We're here at Siman Reish Ayin Gimel in the middle of Sif Aleph. 3 lines into the Siman, 4 lines up from the top. Last word on the line, the word V'yesh. We're discussing the halachas of Kiddush b'makom Suda. We learn out from the pasuk in Yeshaya. The pasuk in Yeshaya says, V'karasa la Shabbos oineg. You have to declare Shabbos. You have to proclaim Kedushas HaShabbos. That's V'karasa la Shabbos. And the pasuk says oineg. Oineg is a reference to the Seudah of Shabbos, which is Oineg Shabbos. We learn out from here that the V'karasa la Shabbos has to be b'makom oineg. Kiddush has to be b'makom Suda. Now, because of the halacha of Ein Kiddush Ela b'makom Suda, right away we have to determine what is it called b'makom Suda. Does it mean that exactly where you are sitting when you make Kiddush, that is exactly where you have to have your Suda? How do we quantify? What does this mean? Ein Kiddush Ela b'makom Suda. So the first halacha that we learned here in Sif Aleph, the Mechaber told us that mipina lepina, going from one end of the room to the other end of the room is okay. And the Mechaber says, afilu if it's a traklin gadol, even if you have a big room, so you're in a hotel and you have a big dining room. If you made Kiddush at one end of the room, and they set up Kiddush at one end of the room, but your table for the Suda is on the other end of the room, that's mipina lepina. Mipina lepina is considered Kiddush b'makom Suda. That's not considered changing locations. And that's true, the Mechaber said, even if it was nimlach. Even if when you made Kiddush over here, you weren't necessarily thinking, okay, I'm making Kiddush here, but I'm going to eat over there. No, you made Kiddush over here, maybe even thinking that you're going to eat on this side of the room. So like the case that I gave was, you have a very, very large open floor plan in your house. And on one end of the dining room, you have a dinette table. On the other end of the dining room, you have the formal dining room. You originally made Kiddush by the dinette table on one end of the dining room, thinking that you have a small crowd and you're going to eat the Suda over there. Then something came up, when more guests came, and you decided, you know what, we're not eating over here by the dinette set that has room for 6 people. We're eating over there by the dining room table where we have room for 18 people. So in this case, you are nimlach. You changed your mind. You made Kiddush in the first pina, on the first end of the room, al das that you're going to eat over there. Then you changed your mind to go to pina acheres, to go to the other side of the room. That's okay, because that's pina lepina. That's not called uprooting yourself from the place that you made Kiddush and going somewhere else. That's called Kiddush b'makom Suda. We saw in the Mishnah Berurah, however, and we're going to see this more, this is going to become more clear as we go along, that if you want to change rooms, if you made Kiddush in the kitchen, having in mind you're going to eat in the kitchen, and then you ask your wife, okay, where's the cake? And she says, I put out the cake and the herring and the crackers in the dining room. So you made Kiddush in the kitchen thinking that you're eating in the kitchen, and now you want to leave the kitchen and go to a different room, go to the dining room. Now you're going mecheder l'cheder. Cheder l'cheder already requires das. You could only switch from one room and go to another room, even though it's in the same house, if you had das that you're going to switch. But if you didn't have das, now you have a problem. You can't go to the other room. That's already a problem of Ein Kiddush Ela b'makom Suda. Now you're not going to be Yotze Kiddush. But now, let's go weiter. Over here, says the Mechaber, V'yesh Omrim. There are those that say, and if you look in the Baragola, this is brought down from the Torah, V'yesh Omrim, there are those that say, a very big kula, Shekol sheroya mekaymai, as long as you can see the place that you made Kiddush from the place that you are now eating in, Shekol sheroya mekaymai, as long as you can see the place, afilu mibayis lechotzer, even if you have inside the house and you have outside the house in the chotzer. If you could see from the place that you're eating, you could see the place that you made kiddush, einoi tzarich lachzer l'kadesh, you do not have to make a new kiddush, you are yoytze kiddush b'makom Suda. Let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah is Vav. Shekol sheroya mekaymai. Explains the Chavetz Chaim. Shekeven sheyachol b'mekayma Suda. Leroy says hamakom shekidesh. Since in the place that you are now eating, you could see the place that you made kiddush. Afilu derech haloin. Even if it's only through the window. So you made kiddush inside the house in the dining room. You have a window that goes out to the backyard. The weather is beautiful outside, and somehow you decided to eat out the Suda outside in the backyard. So now you left the house. You're going outside to the backyard, but you could look through the window and you could see the dining room table where you made kiddush. Yesh omrim that's called kiddush b'makom Suda. Not only that, says the Chavetz Chaim, va'afilu rak miktsas mekaymai. Even if you could only see the kiddush place from part of the Suda place, or maybe vice versa, you could only see a little bit of the kiddush place from the Suda place. Chashav hakol k'makom echad, that's called kiddush b'makom Suda. Ois katan zayin afilu mibayis lachotzer. Says the Mishnah Berurah, an even bigger kula, according to this shita. V'hu adin mibayis labayis. This would even be true from one house to another house. So you made kiddush in your dining room. You look out your window and you could see into your neighbor's dining room. Okay, im roya mekaymai. If you could see the Suda place from the kiddush place from the Suda place, ve'ein shvil hayachet hakavua b'maisakama u'b'maisa gishamim mafsik beinehen, and there isn't a pathway, even if it's a shvil hayachid. A shvil hayachid means a private pathway. Right? If there's a private pathway that separates between your house and your neighbor's house, maybe your neighbor has a little walkway that goes between your house and his house to go from the front of the house to the back of the house. Now that's a shvil hayachid. It's a private pathway. But if it's kavua li'maysa kamu li'maysa gishamim, if it's used in all seasons throughout the year, that would make a hefsek. That would be a hefsek between your house and his house, and then even though you could see one place from the other through the windows, that would be called two different mekaymais. That would not be considered kiddush b'makom Suda. But if it's not that way, if there's no path between your house and the neighboring house, it's a very narrow alleyway, nobody walks over there, there isn't even a shvil hayachid over there. So if you could see from your house into his house, this yesh omrim would say you could make kiddush in your house and eat in his house. That's called kiddush b'makom Suda. But says the Chavetz Chaim, you should not rely on this opinion of this yesh omrim, rak le'inyan di'eved b'shas chak. Only if we're talking about something that's post facto, you already made kiddush in one place and it's a shas chak, maybe something happened, you don't have any food to eat, you made kiddush already, you could see into your neighbor's house, now you could go into your neighbor's house and eat, you could be yotze kiddush b'makom Suda, you could be yotze kiddush, you could eat a Suda, b'di'eved b'shas chak. Shelo yochel lisoy b'makom HaKiddush. You have a b'di'eved b'shas chak, you can't eat where you made kiddush, so now you have to go next door and eat next door, and you could see through the window. That you could do, but this is a big b'di'eved and only shasat chak. Ava b'lavach yizar ma'oid shaloi lahakal mibayis labayis. Other than that, says the Chavetz Chaim, you should take great care not to be makel to go from one house to the other. Al yidei re'iyas makom, using this kula of re'iyas hamakom. Ki yesh achronim shemakmir nafilu di'eved, because there are achronim that say that this is also even b'di'eved. Okay, now let's go weiter here in the Shulchan Aruch, 3 lines up, last word on the line, again, v'yesh. Says the Mishnah Berurah, v'yesh, I remember there are those that say, she'em kiddush b'makom echad, if you made kiddush in one place, al das lechol b'makom acher, but you did it with the intent that you're going to eat somewhere else, shaper dummy, that's okay. V'ayil el reish siman kuf hayin ches, let's read weiter. But that's only true if the 2 locations are in one house. So in other words, let's go a little bit weiter. For example, from one room to another room, or from the roof to the main floor of the house, Says the Ramah, v'chein iker, and this is the way we paskin. So this Yesh Omrim over here says like this. We saw in the beginning of the Sif, we saw that mipina lepina, that's considered Kiddush b'makom suda. To go from one end of the room to the other end of the room, that's okay. That's called Kiddush b'makom suda. So you can make your Kiddush on one end of the dining room, then you could go all the way to the other end of your very, very, very large dining room and eat your babka and your herring or wash and have your suda, and that's called Kiddush b'makom suda. You could do that even if you did not have das to do it. Like I said, you thought you were going to eat on this end of the room. Now you changed your mind to eat on that end of the room, that's fine. You want to go from the kitchen to the dining room, talking about two separate rooms. You want to make Kiddush in the kitchen and then go eat in the dining room. So we had one very cool dikashita. We had one very, very lenient Yesh Omrim that said, if you could see from one place to the other, you could even go from one house to the other house. The Mishnah Berurah said we should not be samech on that shita. Only b'diavad b'shas atchak. Otherwise, we should not rely on that. But now, says the Mishnah Berurah, says the Mechaber, in the name of another Yesh Omrim over here, who is again the Torah and the Magid Mishnah in the name of the Goinim. This Shita says that if you have two places in one house, so the kitchen to the dining room, if you had das when you made Kiddush, that I'm making Kiddush in the kitchen and I'm going eating in the dining room, that's okay. That's considered Kiddush b'makom suda, and the Ramah says v'chein iker. So it really comes out that you really kind of have three different levels over here. One level is mipina lepina. Mipina lepina is considered Kiddush b'makom suda even without any das. Then you have the other extreme. The other extreme is from one house to another house, or from one house to outside. That's not considered Kiddush b'makom suda, except according to the one shita that says if you could see, it is considered Kiddush b'makom suda, which the Mishnah Berurah says not to rely on unless it's a b'diavad and a shasat chak. But then we have this other shita, the other level, which is within one house. To go from one room to another room, that's okay if you had das. If you had kavana, that you're going to make Kiddush here, and then go eat over there, that's okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Cotton Ches, this is true when it's bebayis echad. When does das to change places work? Das to change places works if you're going from one room to another room, bebayis echad, in one house. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Cotton Ches, Hainu takas gag echad. One house means it's under one roof. Afa pishein roya mekaimai. Even though you can't see from the kitchen to the dining room, that's okay. Since it's in one house and you had das, that you're making Kiddush here and then you're eating over there, that's okay. How about if you didn't have das? If you didn't have das, that's a problem. You can't do that. You can't go from the kitchen to the dining room if you didn't have das. Okay. Moving along now to Sif Beis, top line, Nun Beis, Amud Aleph. Says the Mechaber. Im Kidesh bebayis echad, al menas le'echol sham. If you made Kiddush, literally this means, if you made Kiddush in one house, and you had das that you're going to eat over there. Now we're going to see from the Mishnah Berurah that this means even if you made Kiddush in one room, having das to eat in that room. So like I said before, you made Kiddush in the kitchen, having das that you're going to eat in the kitchen. And then you changed your mind. And you decided, no, we're not eating in the kitchen, we're eating in the dining room. And you didn't eat anything. All you did was you made Kiddush, and you drank a maloi lugmav of yayin. You didn't even drink a revius. So you didn't drink a revius, you didn't eat any cake, you certainly didn't wash and begin your suda. All you did was you made Kiddush and you drank a maloi lugmav of yayin. And now you changed your mind and you said, we're not eating over here in the kitchen, we're getting up and we're going to the dining room. You can't do that. Not only can't you do that, but says the Mechaber, Tzarich lachzar ulakadesh, you got to make Kiddush over again. You got to make Kiddush over again in the place where you want to eat. You sat down, you made Kiddush, you made the whole Kiddush in the kitchen, al das to eat in the kitchen. And then you drank a maloi lugmav of yayin, and now you decided we're eating the Suda in the dining room. It's too hot in here, it's too hot in the kitchen, we're eating the Suda in the dining room. Can't do that. You got to make Kiddush over again. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Cotton Test, V'achakach Nimlach, V'lo Yochel Kan Kezayis. We're talking about that you didn't eat let's say, a kazayas over here in the kitchen. Aval malachol kazayas, but if you ate a kazayas here in the kitchen, yotza, you're already yotza kiddush b'mak b'suda. Kilakamon b'sif hey, like we'll see Mir Hashem later on in this siman in sif hey. Also, if you drank a revius of yayin, you also solved your problem. If you drank a revius of yayin, according to Moshitas, you're already yotza kiddush b'mak b'suda. Now you want to go into the dining room, go into the dining room. But if all you did was make kiddush and drink a malay lugmav of yayin, you weren't yotza kiddush b'mak b'suda. Now you can't go and eat somewhere else. Can't do that. Says the Mishnah Berurah, don't read the language of the Mechaber here and think that he means that it's a problem only going from one house to the other. Like he started the sif in Kiddush b'bayis echad. You made Kiddush in one house, Almanas lechel sham, almanas to eat there, and then you were nimlach lechel b'makam acher. You might read the Mechaber and think that that means you changed your mind to go to a different house. Says the Mishnah Berurah, no. The Mishnah Berurah says this means even if you want to go to a different room in the same house, you can't do that. Since you didn't have das to eat over there in that other room when you made Kiddush, you can't do that. You would need a new Kiddush. Sif Gimel, second line down here, Nun Beis Amud Aleph, says the Mechaber. Im Kiddush v'loy sa'ad. Okay, so now we understand the halacha of Kiddush b'mak b'suda. We know the karasa l'shabbos einig. You make Kiddush, Kiddush has to be connected to Suda. So you made Kiddush, you drank a malay lugmav of yayin, and you blew it. You didn't have Kiddush b'mak b'suda. You're not eating over here. Okay, so you made Kiddush and no eating. Now, what's the halacha? Says the Mechaber, in Kiddush v'loy sa'ad, if you made Kiddush and then you did not eat, so you weren't yotza Kiddush b'mak b'suda, af yedei Kiddush lo yotza. You're not even yotza Kiddush. What does that mean? So I'll give you a heads up outside just what the Mishnah Berurah is going to say. What the Mishnah Berurah is going to say is like this. You might have thought that what does it mean, Ein Kiddush Ela B'Mak B'Suda? We know that until you make Kiddush, you're not allowed to eat anything, right? We learned that halacha. Until you make Kiddush, you're not allowed to be toyim anything. You're not allowed to taste anything. You're not even allowed to have a little water until you make Kiddush. So Kiddush is what is matir you to eat your Suda. You're not allowed to eat your Suda until you make Kiddush. So Kiddush is the matir. It's what makes eating the Suda permissible. Now you might have thought that what does the halacha mean, Ein Kiddush Ela B'Makom Suda? Maybe what that means is that if you make Kiddush and now you don't want to eat the Suda here, you want to eat the Suda somewhere else, you're not allowed to. The Kiddush is not effective to be matir you eating the Suda, because Kiddush could only be matir the Suda that you're going to eat in the place where you made Kiddush. So you made Kiddush and you didn't have a Suda. Now you want to go to somebody else's house, or you want to go to a different room and you want to eat a Suda. You're not allowed to, because ain't Kiddush Ela B'Makom Suda. But how about your Chiv Daraisa of Kiddush? Are you Yoitze Kiddush? Well, let's see. I mean, you made Kiddush ala Yayin, and you drank a Maloi Lugmav of Yayin, so maybe the Chiv of Kiddush, the Chiv that we learn out of the Pasuk, Zachar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadshai, maybe you were Yoitze your Chiv Daraisa of Kiddush. The only problem is you can't eat a Suda, because in order to eat the Suda, Kiddush has to be the Matir. But Kiddush is only Matir a Suda that you're making b'makom of Kiddush. Ain't Kiddush ela b'makom Suda. So yeah, if you make Kiddush in the dining room and you want to eat in the dining room, so Kiddush was matir the Suda. Go ahead and eat the Suda. But if you made Kiddush in the kitchen and you want to eat in the dining room, you didn't have a matir in the dining room. You never made Kiddush in the dining room. So no, you can't eat the Suda in the dining room. So fine. So you made Kiddush and you drank in the kitchen. You drank a bala lugma of yayin in the Kiddush. Now you say, okay, I'm going to eat the Suda in the dining room. And your Chavrusa, who's standing there, says, no, you can't do that. Can't do that. You can't go eat in the dining room now. You didn't make Kiddush in the dining room. Ain't Kiddush Ela B'Makom Suda. So you know what? You say to yourself, you know what? I'm not hungry anyway, so I won't eat. But what do you mean? How about your Chiyuv of Kiddush? Well, I was already Yotzei my Chiyuv of Kiddush. I made Kiddush in the kitchen, and I drank a Maloi Lugmav of Gayan. So l'chara I was already Yotzei Kiddush. The Chiv Darais of Kiddush, Zakras Yom Shabbos Akacha L'Chayra, I might think I was already Yoitza. Says the Mechaber, no. Ein Kiddush Ela B'Makom Suda means V'Karasa L'Shabbos Eineg. Kiddush requires a Suda. Kiddush requires that it has to be made b'makom suda. So if you make kiddush not b'makom suda, you're not yoytze zachos yom shabbos hakachay. You're not yoytze your chiyuv of kiddush. That's what the Mechaber is saying over here. In kiddush v'loy saad af yidei kiddush lo yotze. You're not even yoytze your chiyuv of kiddush. Not just you can't eat a suda. You're not yoytze your chiyuv of kiddush. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cutting Yud Aleph. Af yidei kiddush. Kamash malon. What the Mechaber is teaching me over here is Deloy tema, you should not say Dafke im roitze lecho b'makam acher hu deloy my hani hakiddush lahaterloy ba'achila. You might say this that ain't kiddush b'makam suda. All that means is that if I want to go eat now in the dining room, I can't. My kiddush was not efficacious to allow me to go eat a suda in the dining room because ain't kiddush ela b'makam suda. So it won't let me eat in the dining room. Aval in a roitze lisay dachakaklal. But what if I'm not in the mood of eating at all? So I'm going to skip the Shabbos Suda. So Yatzal kol panim yidei Kiddush. Maybe you'll say, I was fart Yoitza the Chiv Darais of Kiddush. Kamash on the Mechaber that no, you're not even Yoitza Kiddush. Now we go to the Ramah. Third line down. Very interesting. So in order to understand this Ramah, what we have to understand again is the concept of Ein Kiddush Ela B'Makom Suda means that there has to be a very close connection between Kiddush and the Suda. Now we're already seeing Ein Kiddush Ela B'Makom Suda requires that you can't uproot yourself and go to a different makom. Kiddush and Suda have to be intimately connected. The Kiddush has to be B'Makom Suda. Says the Ramah now, there's another type of connection that Kiddush and Suda also have to have. And that is time-wise. You have to make Kiddush, and right away you have to have your Suda. We don't want there to be any kind of a hefsek between the Kiddush and the Suda. Now, I don't mean that you can't talk, but we don't want a lot of time to pass between Kiddush and Suda. You make Kiddush, and right away you eat. Says the Ramah, Haggah. V'tzarich lechol b'makom Kiddush la'alter. You need to eat b'makom Kiddush right away. You don't make Kiddush and then wait around. You don't make Kiddush and then dilly-dally. You make Kiddush, and then right away you eat. Now, says the Ramah, another interesting thing. Or alternatively, sheyehei b'daitoi lechol sham miyad. It has to be at least that your mindset was that I'm making Kiddush, and then I eat right away. Now, let's delve into what the Ramah is saying over here, because what the Ramah is saying is two different things. The first thing that the Ramah says is, you make Kiddush, you need to eat right away. The second thing that the Ramah says is, at least your mindset, your kavanah, had to be that you're going to eat right away. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah over here. Two Mishnah Berurahs. Mishnah Berurah, Ais Kat Yud Beis. The Ramah said you have to eat la'alter, you have to eat right away. Says the Mishnah Berurah, V'lo yafsik afilu zman kotzar. He brings down from the Magen Avram. The Magen Avram says, when the Ramah says that you should eat la'alter, it means that you shouldn't even have a short hefsik of time. A zman kotzar, a very short time. Now, the Mishnah Berurah doesn't do us the favor of defining for us what a very short time means. So there is a Dirshu footnote over here. It's Dirshu footnote number 13. So they bring down over here a couple of different shitas. He brings down here from Rav Yaakov Emden, Shir's man kotzar. What does man kotzar mean? Loy nisparish. It's not explained to us in the Magen Avram what does man kotzar means. The kotzar b'sidr hayayvitz from Rav Yaakov Emden, shu kedei shir hilu chaf beis ama. It means the amount of time it takes to walk 22 amas, which is be'erich 40 feet. That's the amount of time. Where does he get this from? Well, that's the halacha that we find by Netilas Yadayim and Hamoitzi. We've learned the halacha already many times. Tekef linetila bracha. Right after you make the Netilas Yadayim, you're supposed to make the Hamoitzi. There isn't supposed to be a long hefsek between Netilas Yadayim and the bracha of Hamoitzi. How long is that? So it's brought down Kedei Hilu Chaf Beis Ama. So too over here. There shouldn't be that amount of time between when you make Kiddush and when you eat. Me'idach, on the other hand, Das Agad Ram Nisa Karelitz Atzal. Shehiyah nechsheves hefsek rak b'shir sheyesh by hesach hadas. From this Karel says it means that there shouldn't be enough time that allows you to be misiach das. What does that mean? We don't want you to forget about Kiddush. Again, there has to be a connection between Kiddush and Suda. If you're going to wait enough time that you already basically forgot that you made Kiddush, right? You made Kiddush and then you got into a long schmooze with somebody and now you want to eat a piece of cake and you're going to go, wait a second, did I make Kiddush? Oh yeah, actually I did. Not going to call that Kiddush b'makom Suda. That's Kiddush is already forgotten about. So from this Karel it says it can't be that long. V'das agadol Rabbi Yosef Shalom al Yashiv Zatzal shal kol panim mutar lishois dakos mu'atos bein a Kiddush l'Suda. Definitely you could have a short amount of time, a couple of minutes. You want to get the cake together, you want to get a paper plate, you want to get a couple of cups, this, that. That's okay. And also that's tzarchei Suda, like the Aruch HaShulchan I believe says. That's tzarchei Suda. So we're not going to call that a hefsek. They ask a very interesting question on this, by the way, from the Pesach Seder. And that is, I don't understand. By the Pesach Seder, Kadesh, we go and we make Kiddush. When do we have the Suda? The Suda is hours later, after Magid. That's when we finally have the Suda. So you have a very, very long hefsek between Kiddush and the Suda by the Seder. So the truth is, it's a little bit funny to me because the Poskim speak about it. The Poskim give different explanations of why it's not a problem. One explanation that they give is that this is a Takonos Chachamim, that you have to say the Haggadah. So since the halacha requires that you have to say the Haggadah, it's not called a hefsek. Also, they say along the same lines that since this is all part of the Seder, and you have to do all of this before you could do Maitzi Matzah and get to the Suda, it's all Tzarchei Suda. Since it's Tzarchei Suda, it's not a hefsek. It's like asking for the salt after you washed between the Tilas Yadayim and HaMaitzi. It's not a hefsek because it's Tzarchei Suda. But L'chayr is a much simpler teretz. The simpler teretz is when you make Kiddush, that's the first one of the Dalit Kaisais. If you drink a Revius by the over there, you're already Yoitze Kiddush b'makom Suda. Since you're already Yoitze Kiddush b'makom Suda, you don't need Maitzi Matzah anymore to be Yoitze Kiddush b'makom Suda. You're Yoitze Kiddush b'makom Suda by drinking a Revius of Yayin. Okay, so now, back to the Mishnah Berurah over here, I was cutting your base. So the Ramah said that you have to eat right away. The Sefer Shari Knesset Agdola writes, if for some reason after you made Kiddush, you had the need to get up and walk out, and then you came back to your place where you made Kiddush, you don't have to make Kiddush over again because you stepped outside. We're not going to say that you were mafsik between Kiddush and the Suda. You made Kiddush, you drank a Maloi Lugmav of Yayin. Remember, if you drank a Revius of Yayin, you're already good. You were already Yoitze Kiddush b'makom Suda. But you didn't drink a Revius. You drank a Maloi Lugmav of Yayin. And now, for some reason, you walked out. And now you came back. So do we say that too late, you were mafsik between Kiddush and the Suda, you need to make Kiddush over again? Says the Sefer Shari Knesset Agdola, no. Because the bottom line is you came back. You came back and you're making your Suda b'makom Kiddush. So the Shari Knesset Agdola, and the Chavetz Chaim brings down in the Bir Halacha that the Shari Knesset Agdola says this as a pshitus. He says it like a davar pashut. You got up and you walked out and you came back. We're not going to say that that constitutes a hefsek between the Kiddush and the Suda, and you weren't Yoitza Kiddush b'makom Suda. But the Mishnah Berurah says, V'yesh cholkin bazer. There are those that take issue with this. Therefore, lechatchila yizar b'zeh ma'od. Lechatchila, you should be very nizar in this. Ach b'di'evet, but if it's post facto, b'di'evet, it'll be pratke sheyot tzarch lases tzrachov. Certainly, let's say somebody had to go to the Beis HaKisei right after you made Kiddush. Nirevadai de'ein lahachmer l'kadesh shenis. We should not be machmer and make Kiddush over again. Ta'arei zeh kedvar m'shem tzarchei suda. Certainly, going to the Beis HaKisei is considered tzarchei suda because you're not even supposed to eat. If you really have to go to the Beis HaKisei, you have to go right away to the Beis HaKisei. So we're not going to say that that constitutes hefsek. And the Mishnah Berurah is very not comfortable with being machmir and going ahead and making new brachas Right? The Mishnah Berurah is always very machmir. In bracha shedit tzricha, safek brachas lahakal. We're not going to say over here that if you stepped outside for a moment, you should go ahead and you should make kiddush over again. Incidentally, this is why a lot of people are very nizar to have a sink in the dining room, why people are nizar to have a sink in the sukkah, because the Chazon Ish, the Chavetz Chaim, apparently they were very, very machmir, and they were very uncomfortable with the idea of, let's say, you have your Suda in the dining room. So you go make Kiddush in the dining room. Now after you go make Kiddush in the dining room, you get up, you leave the dining room, you go to the kitchen to go wash Netilas Yadayim. Well, you left the room, right? You left the room. You left the room where you made Kiddush before you were Yotze Kiddush B'Makom Suda. And now you want to come back. The Chazon Ish didn't like this. He said you really shouldn't do that. So he was nizar to wash in the room where he made Kiddush and where he's going to eat. Others say that there's absolutely no reason to be nizar in this, because even the getting up and the going out and going to wash, those are all tzarchei suda. It doesn't constitute a hefsek. The world is not really, by and large, the world is not nizar in this. People do this all the time. They go outside to wash and then come back. What we're seeing over here again is that this halacha of ein kiddush ela b'makom suda requires that there be a very close connection between the kiddush and the suda. Now again, if you make kiddush and you drink a revius of yayin, you are already yotze kiddush b'makom suda. So now to get up and walk to the kitchen is certainly not a problem. You are already yotze kiddush b'makom suda. Okay, now, Ois Katan Yud Gimel. The language of the Ramah, like I pointed out when I read the Ramah is really telling us two halachas over here. The first thing the Ramah says is, you make Kiddush, you need to eat right away. Then the Ramah says, or you have to at least have in mind that you were going to eat right away. What does that mean? Says the Mishnah Berurah Katan Yud Gimel, Oy Sheyhei, Miloshen Oy, from the language of or, alternatively, that the Ramah used over here, mevur, it's very clear, the meikara, that when the Ramah wrote his first halacha here, he didn't have in mind to eat right away. In other words, what does the Ramah say? The first thing he says is, when you make Kiddush, you need to eat right away. Or you have to have in mind to eat right away. Oh, so that means the first guy didn't have in mind to eat right away. He just did. He made Kiddush and then he ate right away. What did he have in mind? Nothing. He wasn't thinking. He just made Kiddush and then he looked at the kitchen counter. His wife put out a tray of babka. So he makes a mezainis. He has a piece of babka. But did he have in mind, I'm making Kiddush and I'm eating right away? No, it was stam. It was just, he had really mindlessness, kind of. He made Kiddush. He didn't have anything specific in mind. But that's okay, because you ate right away, says the Mishnah Berurah. Miloshen oyim avur the meikara, that in the first halacha the Ramah said loy mayri kishoya b'daita b'ferish b'shas kiddush lechol alter ela b'stama. He didn't have specific intent that he was going to eat right away. He just made kiddush stam. He made kiddush kind of mindlessly. He made kiddush, but he didn't have in mind necessarily that he was going to eat right away. Va'afilu hachiyatza. But he's still yotze kiddush b'makom suda kevin sha'achal alter, because the fact is he made kiddush and right away he ate. So okay. So he's yotze kiddush b'makom suda. No problem. Now what's the second halacha? V'hadar ashminan. Then the Ramah is telling me, oi, or there's another way that you could be yotze kiddush b'makom suda. You know what that is? You had in mind to eat right away. But did you? No, you didn't. Says the Mishnah Berurah. V'hadar ashminan. Then the Ramah is telling me, if he had in mind when he made Kiddush, he came home, he told his wife, I'm making Kiddush, his wife brought out a tray of babka, so he knows he's making Kiddush and then he's eating a piece of cake, so he had in mind that he's going to eat right away, right where he's making Kiddush, but then, but then he didn't eat right away. Why? Because he heard a yell from the living room, and he realized that his little kid fell in the living room and hurt himself. So he put down the kais, he drank a beloy lugmav of yayin, and he put down the kais and he ran out to go to the living room. So he had a mind to eat right away, but he didn't. Says the Ramah, gam kein yotza, you're also yotza. V'em yotza gam mimekayim b'intayim, das kam achrein m'shizach lachs l'kadish. case that I just said, where he went to a different room, there are those Achrayim that say that he would have to make Kiddush over again. But we already said previously that we could be Makel, right? That you don't have to make Kiddush over again. That was the Mishnah Berurah and Ois Cotton Yud Beis, right? If he went out and came back, he doesn't have to make Kiddush over again, right? But so we have over here are two kulas in the Ramah. Kula number one is you made Kiddush and you didn't have das that you're going to eat right away. But you did. That's good enough. Second kula is you made Kiddush with das to eat right away, but factually you didn't. Something pulled you away and you didn't eat right away. But since you had das to eat right away, that's enough. That's considered Kiddush b'makom suda. I made Kiddush with the understanding that I'm going to eat right away. I got pulled away for a moment. That's okay. That's good enough. So too, again, if we go back to the case of the Traklin Gadol, where you made Kiddush in a massive dining room, and you made Kiddush over here, and now you went all the way over there. Or you made Kiddush in one room, having das that you're going to eat in another room, or you went from the house to go eat upstairs on the roof, and you had das that you were going to do that, but it took you time to get there to the place that you're going to eat. You don't have to make Kiddush over again for all of these reasons. So we have this halacha of the Ramah that really we want there to be a very close connection between Kiddush and the Suda. We want Kiddush and we want right away Suda. But at the same time, we're qualifying that and we're saying you don't necessarily have to have das that you're going to eat right away, as long as you factually did eat right away. Or you don't necessarily have to factually eat right away, as long as you had das to eat right away. Also, like the Aruch HaShulchan says very clearly, there are certain times where we understand that you're going to have a certain short delay between the Kiddush and the eating. The Aruch HaShulchan says it was even common back in the day that they made Kiddush, and then after Kiddush they changed their clothing. And then they came to sit down to the Suda with different clothing. Maybe you made Kiddush at a beautiful Shabbos Bekisha, and then after Kiddush you wanted to put on something that you didn't mind if it got a stain on it during the Suda. I don't know if that's the facts, if that's what he means. But he says that they would often go and change their clothing between Kiddush and the Suda. But that's all part and parcel. It's all Tzarchei Suda. And the idea, the mindset, is that I'm making Kiddush, and right away I'm eating. But there are certain things that have to happen in between. I made Kiddush over here. I made Kiddush in the kitchen. Al das that I'm going to eat in the dining room. Takes time to get there. I made Kiddush in this end of the hotel dining room, and I'm going to eat over there, and I got to find my table and everything else. But it's mipina lapina. It takes time to get there. That's okay. Says the Ramah Viter. Second line from the bottom, near the end of the line, by the Ois Cotton Yodal from the Mishnah Berurah. Avo belav hochi. But if you don't have either one of these, what does that mean? You did not factually eat right away. You also did not have in mind to eat right away. So you made Kiddush stam. You made Kiddush not having in mind that I'm going to eat right away. And then your taka didn't eat right away. You had a delay. Even if then later you do eat in the same location as where you made Kiddush, that's not Kiddush b'makom suda. Says the Mishnah Berurah, without this, you didn't have in mind to eat right away. Adarabba, you made Kiddush and you had in mind, I'm not eating right away. I'm making Kiddush and then I'm going to take care of something. And taka v'hifsik. And then you taka did, you were mafsik, you didn't eat right away. So you didn't have in mind to eat right away, and factually you did not eat right away. Even if the hefsik that you had ended up being machmas and oinus, your kid fell down and hurt himself. Even if ultimately you came back and you ate your suda b'makom kiddush lo yotzi, you're not yotzi kiddush b'makom suda. But if the hefsik was for things that are tzarchei suda, that would not constitute a hefsik. Just a little bit weiter, the end of the bottom line here, and then Beis and Aleph. Says the Ramah, if you had mamish das that you're not going to eat You made Kiddush al das that I'm not having the Suda over here, which is totally wrong. But then you changed your mind and you said, oh, come on, Allah is a Kiddush al Makom Suda. So Lamaisa, you made Kiddush and right away you ate, Yotza, then you are Yotza. So another kula. Says the Mishnah Berurah Oiskan Tezvav Sham Yad Pirish Mitchila Kiddush Hayabadaita Shalalecha Klal Adachazman. When you made Kiddush al das. I'm making Kiddush. I'm drinking a Maloi Lugma of Yayin, and then I'm getting busy. I don't know. I'm prepared. I'm taking care of this. I'm taking care of that. I'll eat in an hour. That's what your das was. The Gam Zeha Yabadaita, and also you had in your mind Gam Kain Shalo Yochel Babayaseh Ela Babayas Acher. Not only that, I'm not eating in this room. I'm eating in a different room. I'm eating in a different house. Since after you made Kiddush, you said, what's the matter with me? Ain't Kiddush ala b'makom suda. So right away you sat down and you ate b'makom suda. Ain't tzarich lachzor l'kadosh. You do not have to make Kiddush over again. Okay? Thank you so much for joining me for Limud HaTorah. The source of Limud HaTorah should be making against Klal Yisrael. The Rosh Hashanah should send Yeshua's refuahs panas and shidduchim to those in need, and we should be zeicher to see the BS Kol Tzedek b'meheira v'yameinu amen. Be well.